As you will know, many caseworkers are doing a lot of the elements of a social worker's job. Social work is a profession that usually begins with at least a year of training and supervised practice. With this in mind, the original 8-day training was never going to be enough, either in terms of its length or in terms of its limited focus on caseworker skills and direct services for children and families. This is why this new training has been so incredibly exciting. Having reviewed it over the past weeks, it's been great to see its comprehensive nature and how well designed and put together it is. This is all thanks to the efforts of the Case Management Task Force, as well as the generous funding of the donor for this project, USAID's Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance. The Case Management Task Force is one of our longest standing and most active task forces. The amount that the task force members have achieved over their 8 years of work together is really amazing. It surely makes doing case management in humanitarian crises a far more manageable, satisfying and successful task for children than it was previously. Certainly many of the questions I've discussed with case management teams over the years are addressed in this training. In my experience, when you're new to casework, once you've dealt with a certain kind of case, such as harsh discipline or early marriage, you might feel more confident next time. You might think, I know what I'm doing here. Done this one before, and feel a sense of relief. But you quickly realise that you don't. This is because every case is different. Every child is different, every family and every situation is different. And this is what makes case management so difficult and so stressful. It's also what can make it so difficult to support as a supervisor or a manager. And that's why this training is really a gift. It fills so many of the gaps that child protection teams have been struggling with in humanitarian and fragile contexts for so long. Contexts where children not only have a day-to-day challenge of childhood within a struggling family, which might usually bring them to the attention of the social worker, are exacerbated when we add in the added risk factors of a conflict or a repeated displacement, or the ripple effects of having survived a natural disaster. This training has been a Herculean effort on the part of those who've led and supported it, so there's many thanks to International Rescue Committee on that front. It's an honour to be able to launch it, and I can't wait to hear more about it, including your plans for rolling it out in the coming weeks and months, as well as, of course, to know the outcomes of it on your programmes and the children they're designed to reach. Thanks so much, and back to you, Ilse.
Thank you, Camilla. Thank you for opening the webinar. We are a large group. I see 168, 69. So it will be really hard to introduce every one of you. I will quickly present myself. My name is Ilse, and I'm a child protection case management specialist at the IRC. And together with colleagues of IRC in the Case Management Task Force, we've been leading and updating this child protection case management training package. We would like to do a poll. We will do it in Mentimeter now. We would try to do a poll in which we could see who is joining the webinar. So we will share the link in the chat to the Mentimeter, and could you click on it, and we'll try to see a poll on the Mentimeter to see how many of you are caseworkers or supports, for example, child protection technical team members, who are your managers, who are your consultants. We would like to have an idea of who is in the room. So you could see the Menti link there. Let's try to see if you can access it. If you click on it, please select one of the options, the one option that applies to you. We'll wait a few minutes to give everybody the opportunity to reply. It can also take some time, maybe for some to upload the website. For now, child protection technical supports, which include like advisors or specialists or coordinators, they are like the biggest group. I'm assuming that more are still coming in. This morning, caseworkers were by large the biggest group, actually. So it's interesting to see that now there's a bit of a difference. If you didn't have the opportunity to fill in the Mentimeter yet, please still go ahead. You can continue to do it if it's a bit slower for you to upload the website. It looks like we have a majority of child protection technical support, and then actually the other biggest group is other, which can be a big mix, for example, of consultants or other program team members. Okay, I have also a second question for you. Does your agency already have child protection case management trainings planned? Normally, you should be able to reply using the same link, no? So if you still have the link open, you would have a second question popping up. So we would like to know, like, okay, if you already have a date set, or you know that the planning is ongoing. Some of you were maybe waiting for this package to come out. Other ones don't have any training planned, and maybe you don't know, which is also fine. Okay, so Manami reshared the Menti link in case it got a bit lost in the many messages in the chat. It's like half, like going, yes, planning is ongoing, to also not yet. Let's give it a few more seconds to see where we're at. Okay. Okay, nice to read that the majority of the planning is ongoing, and that also we have 15 agencies where the date is already set. So I hope you'll all be very excited about the new training package. Firstly, I would like to present the journey to this training package. So the journey to a new case management training package. So as Camilla said, it was a whole journey. And this training package is the result of 2 years of work led by the International Rescue Committee on behalf of the Case Management Task Force. To start, we used the interagency child protection case management training of 2014 and used this one as a starting point. And then we started to listen to child protection case management experts, including caseworker, case management supervisors, child protection managers, coordinators, specialists. And we did an online survey asking what they would recommend adding or adjusting. And in total, 469 case management staff from 41 different countries, they responded to the survey, which was an amazing number. And then also we did interviews with case management task force members. So we did consultations with them as well. And then afterwards, design workshop with the case management task force members were organized to agree on a learning strategy, the content that needs to be added, and to create a structure for the training. What came out of these consultations, which was also a big effort, is we took like 4 main takeaways. There was a lot more coming out of it, but the 4 main takeaways was that they asked to focus on practical skills and less on theory. And they wanted to see exercises in which they can practice and demonstrate case management skills included in the training. Preferably using interactive techniques of learning so that nobody has to sit and listen to a facilitator for full day of training, but that there are participant-led sessions, different exercises based on case studies, role plays, games, and so on. And there was also a question to add new content. So there was a lot of requests for new content, but we tried to pick out the main ones. One that stood out was to include mental health and psychosocial support in case management. Also to include, for example, how to communicate with children based on different ages, different abilities. And then also, for example, things as how to use tools like safety planning, how to work on family tracing and unification, especially for unaccompanied children and separated children, and so on. So all of this came out of it. And then our journey actually continued. We to draft a lot of content, and each piece of content was reviewed by the Child Protection Case Management Task Force. Then we traveled around and we piloted the trainings in different humanitarian settings. So, for example, it was piloted in Iraq, in South Sudan, in Kenya. So both level 1 and level 2 training. What they are, I will present in a bit. So these pilots were super useful because we practiced, okay, how does this work? And we took a lot of it, a lot from facilitating the pilots and from the feedback we received. And so all the comments of the reviews and the pilots and the feedback helped us to finalize the materials to what they are today. Okay. So the child protection case management training was updated and the content has been expanded. Now we have 32 days of training. Don't worry, they're put in a structure with different levels. So it's 32 days all at once, but they're put into a new structure with different levels that promote gradual learning. So our main goal actually when we were drafting this case management training package is to make it as practical and as user-friendly as possible. We know that training packages, especially of a big size like this one, they can be like intimidating, but we tried to make it as easy as possible to pick up, prepare, and start the training. So this was one of our main goals, and I hope we succeeded with this. I mentioned that we have a structure with different levels of the training to promote gradual learning, and I quickly want to show you all what we mean by that. So firstly, we drafted the competency framework. This competency framework outlines the main and essential competencies. So it includes knowledge, attitudes, and skills for a caseworker in a humanitarian setting. So this competency framework for caseworkers forms the basis for the different trainings. So it's the framework around it. Then we start with a level 1, which we call a foundational training. This training includes all of the basics. So the basics in terms of knowledge and skills, which we consider essential as a starting point for a caseworker to have. Second, we have level 2, which is a competency-based training. So in this training, we focus on different competencies of a caseworker. We use the experience that the caseworker has had to start the competency-based training. I will present the flow a bit later. And then level 3 contains but optional case management trainings as well. So level 3 is an advanced training. As you can see in the visual, it's like a step up. So you start with level 1, then you go to level 2, and then you go to level 3. The structure, we try to present it a bit in a sort of timeline to give you an idea how we organize the structure of this training package. The idea is that any caseworker that starts to work in a humanitarian setting should complete the 11-day foundational training. So as I mentioned earlier, this training contains all the basics, and this is what any caseworker should learn and develop before meeting a child, before starting case management. We consider this as a key responsibility for the quality of case management support that is provided. So the level 1 foundational training is like the starting point. We also acknowledged in this structure and while drafting this training that we all also learn by doing. We learn from cases that we supported in the past, from experiences we have, and in this, supervision and coaching is essential. So after completing the level 1 training, the caseworker can start opening their first cases and receive support from a supervisor and a coach. After a few months of experience, we would recommend to implement the level 2 competency-based training, which is 5 days. This training uses the experiences of caseworkers before, for example, through sharing of experiences and sharing about cases they have had or supports they did. Also, we have a lot of reflection exercises integrated into it. I will explain a bit more. It's essential for level 2 to already have some months of experience, as it uses this to continue to learn and develop. Then also after level 2, a caseworker will continue and carry on with providing case management. And then we have level 3, which are 4 different advanced but optional trainings. We have CPIMS plus Child Protection Information Management System, which is a 5-day training. We have a training of 3.5, 4 days on family strengthening. And we have a training on mental health, psychosocial support. And lastly, one on supporting unaccompanied and separated children. Before I present the training materials, I quickly want to ask if there's any questions. I didn't look yet at the Q&A. So if you have some questions already, feel free to quickly write them and drop them in the Q&A. Are there any questions, Camilla? Did you see in the chat or in the Q&A?
Just one so far in the Q&A I've noticed about whether they'll have a link to the training manual. So perhaps you can cover that a bit more. And then also a question about case management supervisors, and whether they have different levels. So perhaps you can also say a bit more about the coaching and supervision.
Okay. So about the link to the Child Protection Case Management Training Manual, yes, I will present the materials now. I will present the content of the materials, and then at the end of the webinar, we will explain to you where you can access the training materials. So yes, you will be able to get access to them and download them normally with a click. What about case management supervisors? Do they have different levels? We assume that, for example, a case management supervisor, before you can start supervision and coaching, you will already have the foundational knowledge, and you will also have the essential case management competencies. However, a caseworker can also, a case management supervisor can also join the level 1 foundational training as a refresher. Any caseworker can join level 1 as a refresher, and also level 2, for example, because these skills, we continue to work on them during a longer period of time. So for example, if I mention one, how to respond with empathy, it is something that we can continue to work on and continue to improve. On top of that, this is complementary with the child protection, case management, supervision and coaching training package from the Alliance as well. In the training manual, you will have links to these manuals. So for case management supervisors, there is a training package that strengthens their capacity, to which you will get the link as well, and a supervision and coaching system should be in place. Any other question? Maybe I can try to quickly answer one before we move on. Hello, can the coding of the case names be exposed? This one I'm not fully sure if I understand.
Maybe you can quickly cover about languages. It's an easy one for now.
Yeah, is the training available in different languages? Yes. So as I will present in a bit, the training materials will be available in English, Spanish, French, and Arabic. So they will be available in these languages. If you're planning to implement the training in an additional language, we do recommend you to translate them to another language, but they will be available in these 4 languages. Okay, maybe I will try to continue, and we do have some time for more questions at the end of the webinar before the closing. Okay, So we have some training materials that we developed. We try to keep it limited. So we limited to 4 training materials. The first one I quickly already explained some about it, the competency framework. So the competency framework outlines the competencies that a child protection case management, that a child protection caseworker requires in humanitarian settings. And we divided them in 3 categories. The first category is like personal knowledge, attitude, and skills. Then we have communication and psychosocial support knowledge, attitude, and skills. And thirdly, we have the technical ones. Each of these, each of competency has actually an indicator, so behavioral indicator that can guide you. Okay, what does this competency precisely mean? And we have created a self-assessment. So it's a file that is guides a caseworker through assessing the competencies with themselves. Before and after the training, the caseworker can complete the self-assessment. So it will give you an understanding like, okay, where am I at now? But you can also use this competency framework during supervision and coaching. Secondly, we have the facilitator's guide. So the facilitator's guide is an accompanying document that provides the overview of the management training package. It includes an overview of the different levels, the different modules, the different sessions, because it's all broken down in bits and pieces, and as well as tips for facilitation and explanation on the learning strategy, tips for planning, what do you need for each training, so how to prepare, like room setup, group size, sample agendas, and also flag for contextualization. So this facilitator's guide will help you to get ready and to prepare for a training. Then thirdly, we have how to prepare for a training. Then thirdly, we have PowerPoint presentation. So the content and the exercises are presented in a PowerPoint presentation, and these include, for example, the agenda, the aim, and the learning objectives, because each module has learning objectives on which a participant will reflect at the start and at the end of the training. It has a mix of theory, core content, and session activities, and it always concludes with learning messages. We try to make it as easy as possible to pick up. This is what I mentioned earlier. So facilitators' notes can be found in the notes pane of the PowerPoint. So this includes detailed step-by-step instructions, what you need to do, even where you need to contextualize. We have some sample scripts now and then of what to say or core messages to share. So normally a facilitator would have everything they need to get ready and to facilitate this training in the notes pane and the facilitator's guide. And then the last training material, which I think is the most fun one, because I really enjoyed giving training with this one. We created a participant's workbook. One copy for each participant should be printed. And this also makes an end with printing multiple different handouts that then you have to organize. Everything a participant needs is in this workbook. So this workbook includes overview of each module and session, the module aim and learning objectives, including a reflection at the end, like about which learning objective do I feel confident that I achieved it. It includes some important definitions, models, case management forms, but also case studies, role plays, and other activities. Like it has crosswords, matching exercises, games, and everything. So this is all included in the participants' workbook, and they can take it home with them after each day of training. And they can also take it with them, for example, during individual supervision sessions or case management meetings. So how would you have to prepare, for example, when you want to give this training as a facilitator? So first, we ask you to read the facilitator's guide. Don't worry, we try to keep it really short and to the point. It's not a big book. So you will have to go over the facilitator's guide, as it provides you an overview of everything you need to plan and to contextualize. It also has sample agendas. Really, it has everything you need. Then we would ask you to familiarize yourselves with the PowerPoint presentations and the facilitator notes in it and the participants' workbook, because they're interconnected. For example, there would be one slide, the one we showed earlier on the previous slide, is that you would see, for example, the socio-ecological module, and then at the same time in workbook you will have this module, and then participants can fill it out. So you will have to familiarize with both because they're interconnected. As we expect that this training will be conducted in various humanitarian settings, like in different countries, regions, with different languages, religions, cultures, it is impossible to make one training package that fits all. So we do ask any person facilitating or preparing to facilitate this training to take sufficient time to contextualize the training materials. The main slides, exercises, and tools to contextualize have been highlighted in yellow. So the things you will have to adjust, they're highlighted in yellow. Of course, you can always contextualize more, but everything we think is really important has been flagged. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the training materials will be available in English, French, Spanish, and Arabic. And if you're planning to facilitate in any other language, we do recommend you to translate it. So this is how we suggest for any person preparing for the training to get ready. Then the last point before we go on is, what is the content of the 3 levels of training? So as I mentioned earlier, this training package is huge. It's 32 days of training. It's impossible for me, because we want to launch it and make everybody aware that this training package now exists, give you an idea of how it looks like, but it's impossible to give you all the details of the different contents. So I will give a very brief description, and then as soon as it's online and you download it, you can look at it more into detail. So level 1, the foundational training, has the aim to provide participants with the foundational knowledge and skills that they require to provide case management in line with the interagency standards. So this training package is developed for new caseworkers with no or limited experience, or for caseworker with existing experience who would like to do a refresher. This this level contains 11 different modules that can be divided in different blocks. So it is 11 days of training, which I know is huge, but we also need to take into account that caseworkers bear a huge responsibility, and it's really not easy to support children in humanitarian settings who face protection concerns. So we explain that it is necessary to have like a solid approach for capacity strengthening of caseworkers, and the foundational training includes all the basics, which is indeed a lot. It is divided in different blocks. Block 1, you would see, is module 1 and 2, which is the foundational knowledge for child protection and case management. Then we have a second block, which includes module 3, communicating with children, which focuses on how to communicate with children of different ages, in different developmental stages, with different abilities, how to take cultural considerations into account, and focuses on specific techniques. The third block is module 4 and 5, which focuses on the role of a caseworker to support, to provide immediate support and to provide psychosocial support. And then the fourth block, which is the biggest one, is module 6 to 11, which are the case management steps. So I know that level 1 is a huge training, and it's not easy to do it all at once, but you can break it up in different blocks in the way that we have organized it. Then we have level 2, the competency-based training. So this training does no longer focus on the specific case management steps, as many of these case management competencies are applied in different steps. So module 1 builds on the competency framework and outlines, okay, what are essential knowledge, what are child-centered attitudes, what are the skills that I need, and then we jump into the specific competencies as they're organized in personal ones. For example, part 1, module 2 is a really fun day of training. It's about blind spots, self-awareness, unconscious bias, how to include diverse people, for example, of different cultures, different abilities. while module 3 is focusing, for example, in how to manage conflicts, negotiation strategies, how to coordinate in very complex cases. And then module 4 is focusing on communication skills and MHPSS, and this also includes specific techniques for motivational interviewing. And then the last one, the technical competencies, focuses, for example, on how to map out a child protection system, how to manage a case law with different risk levels and priorities, and how to plan all the tasks you have to do. So this training focuses really on the knowledge and skills, like we mentioned earlier, and uses the experience of a caseworker through these many exercises that are integrated. And then we go to level 3, which is a big piece of work by itself. Level 3 includes 4 different advanced but optional trainings. We do recommend that no, it's not any person taking the level 3 training should already have completed the level 1, and we do recommend that they also complete level 2 before jumping into level 3, as we showed the stairs earlier in the presentation. We have the first training of the advanced one is Child Protection Information Management System. So we have a CPIMS Plus training. It's not a case management training, it's a CPIMS Plus training that learns learns participants, for example, CPIMS Plus end users, in how to navigate the CPIMS Plus system in a way that it supports and strengthens case management. So this training has been developed for caseworkers, but also for supervisors and managers, because there's also modules included in how to use CPIMS Plus to monitor quality, how to use CPIMS Plus in supervision and coaching. So this is a 5-day training to strengthen the capacity of child protection case management teams in using CPIMS Plus. And it really is super helpful, because we've seen it already, for example, in Iraq, where it was piloted. It's super helpful to use when CPIMS Plus is being rolled out in a country or a setting. This training can be delivered face-to-face, but can also be adapted to do remotely. Then we have the second one, family strengthening. This is a 3 to 4 day training on family strengthening, which equips caseworkers with the knowledge and skills in going through case management processes together with the families. So it includes ways to involve and to work towards family strengthening through case management, and it includes also specific tools and techniques you can apply. We have also a mental health and psychosocial support training of 4 days. For this one, again, it's super important that participants have completed level 1 and level 2 before taking on MHPSS training. It's one of the things that is the biggest update, I think, in comparison to the 2014 package, is that MHPSS, mental health and psychosocial support, is integrated in level 1 with a 1-day module, also on level 2 with a 1-day module as well. And then in level 3, we have a 4-day separate training. The aim of this training is to strengthen the knowledge and skills of caseworkers to provide focused, non-specialized MHPSS. So it includes, for example, topics such as understanding stress, trauma, self-harm, grief, and loss. And it also contains a huge handbook filled with focused, non-specialized MHPSS interventions that a caseworker can undertake and use for children of different ages. And then the last one is a training about unaccompanied and separated children. So on behalf of the Case Management Task Force, UNICEF has developed a 3.5-day training on providing case management support to unaccompanied and separated children. The aim of this training is to strengthen the knowledge and skills of child protection caseworkers to prevent and address the protection concerns that are related to family separation. So there's modules, for example, on understanding the causes, the impact and the risks related to family separation, and also focusing on how you provide case management support to unaccompanied and separated children. How can you work towards alternative care and family tracing? So level 3 is indeed quite big because it's 4 separate trainings. I've been doing a lot of talking, so we'll try to do another Mentimeter if possible. I would like, let's try again, maybe we can drop the link again in the chat. I would like to know from everyone who is joining here, like what level of the training seems the most exciting to you. I would like to have an idea if yeah, which level of which training you think like, okay, this is what I think is most exciting for me or for my team. So we'll give it like a proper minute and a half to see some results come in. I actually don't know if you can you select only one option or select multiple options at the same time? Maybe it's only one.
Yes, you can only select one, unfortunately.
So you have to select your favorite.
You have to be disciplined in your decision.
Yeah, then I can imagine it might be hard for some like to choose one. Based on what we have now, even though there's still a lot of people who still have to click on the Menti. Yeah, we have level 1 foundational for new caseworkers or as a refresher. Level 3 family strengthening, and then level 3 MHPSS. I have the impression that they are currently the winners, but it keeps changing.
It looks like there's also lots of votes for level 3 coming in the chat.
Yeah, I see these pop up.
Maybe level 3 is pulling ahead.
But level 3 is huge because it still includes the different parts. Okay. It's interesting to see, and I'm very curious, and also like hearing later from you when everybody has like downloaded and starts like to implement the training. So I hope through the case management task force we will hear back on that. I would level 3 MHPSS is the winner at the moment though. I would suggest that we will move on to the last bit of the presentation so we can question that we've been hearing this morning, and I assume that this was also like in the afternoon. It's like, how can I access the updated child protection case management training package? Because we present how the journey towards it, the structure, the materials, a bit of the content, but now you want to know, of course, like, okay, when and how can I access it? So the release will be done in weeks. First, we have the competency framework and the competency self-assessment, the facilitator's guide, and level 1 child protection case management foundational training. This package, this amount of materials will be online from this Monday. So Monday is the 3rd of April. So on the 3rd of April, this Monday, you can already access and download level 1 child protection case management training in English, Spanish, French, and Arabic. Then we have level 2 child protection case management competency-based training. It will be shared 2 weeks later. It will be up then on the website of the Alliance as well. I will show you in a bit where you can find it. And then afterwards, the different level 3 trainings, including CPIMS Plus, Family Strengthening, MHPSS, and UAC. So everything will be shared within the month of April, with starting on the 3rd of April, level 1. And the facilitator's guide and the competency framework and the self-assessment. So I wanted to show you where you will be able to find it. For sure, there will be like updates also on the the media of the Alliance. It will also be in the updates when you open the homepage, but we wanted to show you where you can access it. So when you go to the Alliance website and click on the training and e-learning tab, you will find it immediately there. It will be probably the first one, that shows up. So training and e-learning, but we will also share, for example, the link to this presentation, and then you can see it at the top, the address. Yeah, and Manami also just shared it in the chat. So from next Monday, you will have the first load of materials available. And I think with this, we're coming towards the end. Only seeing if there are still some questions that haven't been answered yet. I'm trying to see through the queue.
Do you speak Spanish as well as French also?
I speak French, not Spanish.
Okay, I have posted the Spanish translation of one question in the chat box, but I'll just quickly repost it at the bottom now, along with the new one that's come in. But there was one in French, two in French, I think, that you can probably take. Some of these ones are quite tricky. We've answered all the easy ones. Unfortunately, I've left you the trickier ones. But happy to jump in if you want.
I can't see it. At what time will we have the training available on Monday is the question I saw in the chat. It will probably be if you're in, it depends on where in the world you are because it's different time zones. But it will be the afternoon, evening if you're in Europe, and around the morning probably if you're in the US. But it really depends on where you are in the world, so it's a bit difficult to answer. But it will be there on Monday.
There's also an interesting one you might have thought about in all of your work on the training. How will we identify the training level for the caseworkers who've been working for a long time and already received several trainings based on the previous training manual?
Yes, exactly. We do recommend, as the training has been organized really as the build-on structure, that we do recommend, for example, to do at least specific trainings that weren't there before for experienced caseworker as a refresher. So for example, we have module 5, which is about immediate support. We have and we have module 4 about MHPSS. As for example, you will on this and on these modules in level 2 and 3, we do recommend that people, caseworkers with experience and who have been trained for multiple times, do participate to the refresher. Depending on your target audience, also explained in the facilitator guide, you can shorten a certain training. So for example, based in the modules about the steps, you could leave them out. For example, reviewing a case management form or finding mistakes in a case management form, which is also in the modules about the steps, you could leave them out. But things I would recommend you to review it, and things of which you think, okay, we haven't included yet, to do include them in the level 1 foundational training, because the other modules will build, the other levels build on that. I hope this answers your question.
There's also a few questions about accessibility, and I think people are thinking it's accessible online. So maybe you can just say a little bit more again about how it's available. And linked to that, people are asking if they'd get a certificate and if it's free, and if there's a sort of evaluation at the end. So all those seemed somehow linked to me.
For certificate, there's not like an Alliance badge that we provided until now. It's something that we're looking into with the Learning and Development Working Group. But at the moment, for example, for the Alliance, there's no certificate. But of course, if you are organizing this training for your agency, or for example, on CPOR level in an area, you're welcome to create certificates for people who participated for the number of days. When it comes to, wait, what was the other question that I forgot?
Will there be a sort of test at the end of the training?
Yes, so for this training package, we didn't create a bit of an exam style pre and post test. So there is a feedback and evaluation form included, which is also explained in the facilitator's guide. And there is the competency self-assessment, which participants can complete before and after training. But a classic pre and post test, after discussing with the Learning and Development Working Group as well, we decided not to use this. Also often it's not used to, for example, for learning purposes. So we try to, for example, to support learning also by using the reflections on the learning objectives in the workbook that then can be taken by the caseworker and the supervisor in individual meetings or case management meetings. So the evaluation is done through an evaluation form and the competency self-assessment. And then when it came to accessibility, so it will be able, you can download it through a link on the Alliance for Child Protection and Humanitarian Action website.
Yeah, so it's not been structured as an e-learning course that people can do and click through.
No.
It's something that people would need to deliver as an in-country, in-person training.
Yes.
Okay.
So when we did the consultations, the recommendation is actually that face-to-face training is preferred. So we developed the training packages thinking they can be adapted to remote learning, and here and there you will see it in the facilitator note, especially for the CPIMS Plus, how you can adapt it to remote training.
Okay, and then we've got a question about whether anything on disability competencies for the workforce is included within the competency framework. And if you can take two, I know you're probably getting a lot in your head at the moment, the one on documentation and whether it's included in the training and whether it's linked to global standards around that. So some of the work that's going on around information management.
I will first reply the last question because it's still fresh in my mind. So we updated, for example, principles and so on based on the new data protection information sharing protocol that's being created by Alliance. So it is aligned with current standards. IM for CM, information management for case management, is integrated throughout the training and throughout the different levels. So it is one of these things that earns in all of the levels. And then the other question was, I keep forgetting.
No, I'll do one at a time. That's right, whether it's included in the competency framework.
Yes, so one of the competencies is diversity and inclusion, and if you can work towards it, and then we have specific behavioral indicators. So it is definitely included. Also, for example, we consider this as basic and foundational. So it's not only on level 2 on the competencies that's been worked on that. I will give an example in module 3 on communicating with children. It also includes how to communicate with children of different abilities. So in your workbook, the participants' workbook, there's 2 pages, for example, with tips that were created together with UNICEF. And how can you adapt communication to, for example, a child that has difficulty hearing? How can you adapt communication to, for example, a person who can't see or a child who can't see? How can you adapt communication with difficulty speaking? So we have specific tips for it, and it is there in the participants' workbook that they can take home with them. So, for example, if they register a case and a child can't hear, they should be able to quickly open the workbook and also look at the notes that they took there. So it's definitely included and integrated throughout the training.
Thank you. You're doing so well with so many questions. There's a couple of other really great ones I can see here. If you can share a contact for further questions. So I was wondering if this is a good time to talk about the community practice page. If you want, are you clear on it now?
So on the Alliance website, but Camilla, you're also welcome to explain this one, that we have the community practice button even, and you can register there. I made my account actually today for this. And if then you will look for the topic of case management, case that there's a thread, for example, with questions about case management, we have peer-to-peer support. And also in the facilitator's guidance, in the facilitator's guide, we have the learning and development contact details also there of the Alliance, in case you have, for example, questions on adult learning or different, how to adapt your reality to remote. So it's also included there. Maybe, Camille, you could explain a bit more about this community practice.
Yeah, it's a community of practice for individuals to register, and they can start a discussion topic. They can reply to other people's discussion topics. You can sign up to receive a notification to your inbox every time you every time there's a new post, or you can have a smaller, like a weekly email. But yeah, it's really supposed to be for individuals to use to communicate with colleagues and get to know new people, to network. So yeah, if you follow the link I'm about to post in the Q&A, and we can post it in the chat box as well, you can follow a specific thread for the community of practice, but you first need to register using the pink button on the website. Or if you follow this specific link to the page for this training, it will also prompt you to register. It might take a day for your registration to be approved. But after that, you'll be able to access the site. So maybe check in early next week or tomorrow, and then you can start asking questions, and we'll post some of the materials that we have up there as well, or links. There's another question in the chat box about, is there any plan to provide a TOT, which was a question came up a lot this morning. So maybe it's something we need to fundraise for, but I'll let Ilse come back on that one in more detail.
Yeah, exactly. But I think you explained it well. We don't have a TOT planned now, but indeed there would be funding for it. It would be great, because I do think it's needed to support the rollout of this. We try to make it as easy as possible to pick up with facilitator tips in the facilitator guide. The notes are pretty concise and clear. And if you will have support requests, for example, we will have the learning and development working group, and we have the community practice. But at the moment, we don't have a TOT.
Okay, we're still going. Can you share with us the schedule for each type of training?
You mean the duration? The schedule.
I guess an agenda.
Yeah, so there's draft agenda. It's in the facilitator guide. For level 1, it's 11 days of training, a total of 7 that you divided up in blocks. Like I mentioned earlier, for example, on block 1, foundation of child protection and case management, and you have a day afterwards. This can be already another week on communication, psychosocial support, and immediate support. I would divide them in a block, and then you have the last block, which is the case management steps. For what we recommend when you cut it up in the different blocks is that you don't leave more than 2 weeks between different blocks of training, because otherwise the modules really build on each other, and if there's too much time in between, it will be difficult to make the links. For level 2, it is a 5-day training, and we recommend you to give it in 5 consecutive days. But you can also, for example, divide it up in 5 weeks, and you do 1 training, and then, for example, when the next week after, caseworkers come back and also reflect on, for example, did they use the skills that they learned about in the past week? So there's options there as well. And then for level 3, yeah, it are 4 different trainings. CPIMS Plus is 5 days, family strengthening 3.5. MHPSS 4 days, and then UAC 3.5. For these ones, we recommend you to do it in consecutive days if possible. I hope this gives you a reply to the question. Maybe the last one, because we're topping at 1 hour.
I think all the others are quite longer ones that might take a bit more time, but we can perhaps post some responses to the common questions and see if we can answer those as well with the wider task force through the community of practice. I think that will take a while.
Okay, good. So then I will give the floor to Annalisa. I think you're here. Annalisa, I will let you close today's webinar. So the floor is to you.
Thank you so much, Ilse. I hope you can all hear me. Please let me know if you can't. I apologize.
No,
I'm not going to be able to come on video. I'm on my way to the airport to go on holiday, but I really wanted to be here. Thank you so much for today's presentation. For those of you that don't know me, but I see a lot of familiar names in the participants list, I'm Annalisa and I'm with the IRC as the Director of Strategy and Learning. And I think it's just really exciting, and I really wanted to celebrate the presentation and the launch of these materials. It's been a very long journey that we've done. If I remember back 10 years ago when we initially started working on the case management guidelines in 2013 and really coming together and bringing together the case management task force and then working under the Alliance to really spearhead all this work. And it's really, really exciting to see all the learning and all the shift that we have made over the past 10 years to really work towards a real focus on the skills, not just the knowledge, but the skills and the competencies that these caseworkers and you all that are working in the different countries with all some of the most vulnerable and the most at-risk children in the countries in which we work, and the skills that you need in order to be able to really provide the best possible response and the best possible service for these children. So it's really, really exciting to see all this come together. I would like to just close by saying, a big thank you to BHA, to USAID, Bureau.
I lost connection, no? Or is this just me?
Yeah.
We lost her.
Let's give it a second and see if it comes back or no. Yeah, I think we lost Annalisa while she's on the way to the airport. I think the connection in the car
Hello,
is not...
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. You're back. Okay.
Sorry, I'm not sure where I left off. But maybe just to reiterate, just to thank BHA for working with us on this journey for the past 10 years and for this specific project in really kind of making it happen, and for being our partners on this, and for the Case Management Task Force and the CP Alliance, which really speaks to the interagency nature and interagency kind of coordination and collaboration to respond to the needs of these children. And finally, just internally to IRC, to our child protection team, to Ilse, and to Crystal, who's not with us today. She's on maternity leave, but really the amazing work that they have all put into making this all happen and pulling it together and launching these products today. So it's really exciting, and we look forward to hearing how you use them, how they resonate with you, and how the difference that they'll make to your work on the field. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your time today, and look forward to continuing to work together moving forward.
Thank you, Annalisa, for doing the closing. And with this, we wish you a safe travel if you're on your way to the airport. And with this, we've come to the end of the webinar. I will repeat that. Don't worry if we don't share the materials today. From Monday on, you will find them on the Alliance website. We will also share the PowerPoint in PDF with you all for everybody who registered. And indeed, we're looking forward to like rolling out this training package together. Thank you, everyone.